Okay, amazing. If everyone who's on so far can just type in where they're calling in from, what they currently do. I want to just get a sense of who's here to make sure this is going to be as useful as possible to you. So we're going to, throughout this session, be using the chat box for a kind of a back and forth. We're going to be going through the personality types. We're going to be breaking down each one. And it's not going to just be a lecture, but it's going to be an interactive, immersive experience where you'll actually get to learn personality types on yourself, and with the goal of being able to, for you to be able to use it on the people around you that you are currently helping in their careers, or who you want to be able to help in their careers. Of course, if you're doing this just for yourself, that's also fine. I'm really, really happy that you're here, and I hope that you're going to learn something new about yourself that you'll be able to take into your career, into your life, and something really useful that you can kind of just get in touch with yourself. What I really love about personalities types is that, well, besides for the fact that everyone has one, it's really a way of validating things that you already know about yourself, but don't maybe appreciate or recognize or understand why you're like that, or what makes you different than the people around you. And I think a lot of us judge ourselves. And then when we learn personality, there is this whole new understanding of like, oh, no wonder why I'm like that. No wonder why, my spouse annoys me this way, but this is something that like I was always like this, or my parents were this way and my in-laws are completely different. And it gives just a whole new global understanding for yourself, for your personal relationships, and of course especially for the kind of job that you choose and excel at. I'm Shana Carey, and I'm a career consultant, for those of you who we haven't met in person yet. So I'm really, really happy that you're here, and thank you for following and showing up live. For those of you who are watching this recorded, thank you for being here, and that I hope you'll get as much as you can out of this. So we are going to be going through the personality types first, and I'm going to break down exactly what personality types are, where they fall into in each person, and then we're going to do a practice quiz that you're going to take live online, so that you'll actually get your own report as we're going through it, and you'll be able to read it, see if it's accurate. If not, you'll go back and do it again. You could use that report on anyone around you for free, unlimited use, so you can really, really dig in and practice and experiment and see how it goes. And then I'm going to share more information with anyone who's here, who's interested in learning more about becoming a career coach, and what else that entails besides for just personality, because personality is just one small tool that career coaches use. And there's a lot more. So if anyone wants to learn more about that program, at the end we'll be explaining, breaking down what that program includes, what the course is, and we'll be having a special guest visitor at the end who's going to speak. And so I'm not going to reveal the identity until that person shows up, but they'll be here in a bit more than an hour. So for anyone who really wants to know about becoming a career coach, make sure you stick around, because I think that's going to be a major highlight. Okay, so if anyone hasn't typed in yet, just a second. Oh wait, the chat is disabled. How do we enable the chat? Just want to make sure that everyone could type in. Let's see if it works. Let's try chatting. Okay. Let's see if you can see this message. Please type in your current profession and location. Okay, let's see if people can message. Does everyone see my message? Okay, let's see. We'll give that a second. Okay, in the meantime, I'll do a share screen, and we'll start with teaching you what you came here tonight to learn, which is personality types. Okay, let's see how we can do a share screen. Oh no, okay, it first makes me, oh good, okay. Type into the Q&A box then what your current profession is, and what city you're located in, just to give me an idea. Okay, good, I see teacher, social worker, salesperson in technology, musician, HR. Perfect. Okay, good. Keep them coming. I really want to know who's here and get to see you. Perfect. Financial professional. Excellent. Okay, good to see you. I'm seeing some familiar names. Excellent. Okay, keep the answers coming in. Good. Okay, as I ask questions, I'm also going to, as we go along, have questions for you. So I want you to be able to participate live. So we'll use this throughout. Okay, so let's just do the screen share. Okay, let's put it into slideshow mode from the beginning. There we go. Okay, here's what you're here for. Okay, so if you've been following me on LinkedIn or following my emails, then you've probably heard me use the word ikigai, which is one of my favorite words. I saw it once on the front cover of a book, and I picked it up and I was like, what's going on? And it's just this incredible concept that explains everything that a person really wants in their career. And it's if you take the perfect job and if you know somebody or you could dream of what your perfect career would be, it would land you right there in the middle of ikigai. So it has to be something that you love, but it can't just be something that you love. It has to be something that you're also good at. And besides for something that you love and you're good at, like maybe you love jumping rope and you're really good at it, but you can't be paid for it unless there's an Olympic jump rope competition that you can bring home gold for. So you have to be able to pay for it, be paid for it. And then even if people are willing to pay for it, but they don't really need it, that's the fourth criteria. So within each of these things, right, we see there's the word passion, the word mission, the word vocation, profession, and where two of those Venn diagrams hit, you'll have something, like lots of people have something that they're good at, they can get paid for it. That's a profession, but do you love it? Is there a really big demand for it? So if we can find that middle perfect, that's the ikigai. Thank God I can say that what I do today, I feel like I found that, and lots of my clients, after we finish working together and they're able to take the steps to make that happen, they're able to say that they found that. Now, it doesn't need to be 100% perfect. Life isn't perfect, but we want to get as close to that as possible. And throughout this evening and throughout the process of career coaching, I'd like to hold up this ideal standard so that we can get as close to it as possible. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, here's just what we're describing, just what you're good at. You can have satisfaction if you have the thing that you're good at, but you don't really love it. You can be comfortable but feeling of emptiness. So there's all the combinations. So we really want to get the most ideal as possible. Now, we're focusing tonight on this part, this personality aspect, which is unique combination of characteristics, and it stays pretty much the same over a lifetime. I get the question a lot of, well, I used to be an extrovert when I was younger, and now I'm an introvert, or the opposite. So I really believe that people's personality doesn't change. What changes is your environment and the people around you and what you're molding yourself to be. So, if you're in a relationship with someone for a long time and living with them, you might mold yourself to make it workable. But that doesn't mean that your natural self changed. It means that you've stretched yourself, which is a good, healthy thing to do. But it doesn't mean that your natural self changed. So whenever I hear someone use the words, well, if I try, or they start giving like a should, then I know, okay, well, that's something that you're working on, that you're trying to do. It isn't naturally yourself. Of course, we want to be balanced in all areas, but personality is something that does remain constant over a person's lifetime. When a person tells me that it changed, it usually means that they're more self-aware now than they used to be. So that's usually the difference. Now, what we're not touching on, but I want you to know that it exists, is emotional intelligence and what we call IQ. So emotional intelligence is all the things that should change over a lifetime. A person's interpersonal relationships, relationship with themselves, their self-awareness, the way they behave with other people, their anger management, their all of the pieces that relate to emotion, which are a very critical part to a person's success. There's, if you look on the Emotional Intelligence 2.0, there's a website. You can take a test there, and I think for every point that you go up, on average, people make another $1,300 a year. So it actually really contributes to a person's career success and income over a lifetime. That's something that we highly recommend people to work on. It's not something that we do as career coaches. The IQ, what we call career IQ, are your cognitive abilities. So I'm going to show you soon a sample of what somebody's results looks like when they take the full Rockport assessment. And then we do cover what we call kind of the career IQ, the parts of your life that are important for career, the parts that are relevant, like spatial reasoning, diagnostic reasoning, analytical, rate of idea flow, a whole bunch of areas that we picked the 13 most important areas as they relate to your career and how you do compared to other people on those cognitive abilities. That determines what you're able, how your mind works, like what you're naturally good at. And then personality is the set of characteristics. So it's the widest category that remains consistent. And so it's the first thing that we look at. And if you learn anything else about career coaching and you just learned this, you're off to a pretty good start. Okay, let's just check. I see a bunch of chats are working now. Um, okay, yeah, okay, so people can type in there. And then I see in the Q&A. Okay, I'm just gonna check in on this. Okay, this somehow, this name got hijacked. Everyone is coming up as it. So it's not you, but I see a bunch of different people with that name that obviously aren't all the same people. So you can keep typing in. So like I was describing, the EQ versus the IQ, they both influence different areas of career success. The IQ is more going to influence how you do in school. EQ is actually more important for career success. EQ can be raised. EQ is more what we call nurture. IQ is more what we call the nature. So when we look at an individual for career consulting, we look at what are their natural intelligences, and then we look at what's their personality. And then obviously we recommend for everyone to develop their EQ over the course of their lifetime. Okay, so here's what I keep referring to. Here's what sample results look like. So this is just a sneak peek. This is actually a real person's results who I worked with personally, and of course removed their information for privacy purposes. And these are all different things that you learn as a career consultant, what they mean, what these scores mean, how to use them together, and then how to help a person understand their skills. So don't get overwhelmed by this. The only thing that we're looking at is down here, the type. Oops, jumped away, the type indicator. So the very last thing here, so you see all the way down there, it says ISFJ. So you've probably heard these letters before, like these 4 letters, and sometimes people put them on resumes or on their LinkedIn profile, and they say, oh, I'm an INFP, I'm an ENTJ. They throw around these 4 letters. So by the end of this hour, you'll be a bit of an expert on that, so you'll know what they're talking about. So just to show you the way we break it down, ISFJ, there's 4 categories, and with each of those 4 categories, everybody's got a bit of the other one. So when we give a person results, they get the exact breakdown of what percentage they are, extrovert versus introvert, intuitive versus sensing. You don't have to memorize that. I'll explain it to you. You'll see very soon what that is. So that's where we're focusing tonight. Okay, so personality is our main focus. So there's 16 different types. That's all. And it's based on only 4 things. So tonight we're going to spend time going through those four areas. And in each one, there's only 2 options. So like most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with with extroversion and introversion, which is the first one. So you're either an extrovert or an introvert. I know you're already thinking, wait, but I'm both. I'm a little bit of both. We'll explain that. And we'll help you each figure out for yourselves and for the other people who you're going to be using this tool with, which one, how you figure out which one it is more, even though everybody's got a combination of both. So you see how we have, all the NTs are in the top left over there. All the NFs are in the bottom left. All of the SJs are in the top right, and then all the SPs are in the bottom right. So those are the 4 general categories. And in each personality type, there's variations, but there's still only 4 general types of personalities. And it's interesting because on the one hand, we really all like to feel unique and special and different, and we are. There's no 2 faces alike on this planet, right? Even identical twins have their little discrepancies. And I think that as much as we want to be unique, there's a certain security in knowing that this world has, only a limited amount of, just like you have your own facial features, but there's still, like, everybody has 2 eyes and a mouth and a nose. And so with personality, it's not like insulting to think that, oh, I fit exactly into these categories. Yes, we want to know eye color, right? Is it blue, green, brown, whatever the standard options are. And I think that there's a kind of like a validation in knowing, like, okay, like I am in a general sense going to fit into a certain category that's going to help explain myself. Within that category, there are endless variations. Just like there are endless variations of every color, there's still only 4 primary colors. So that's the way I like to think of it. Most people, once they understand their personality type, and I hope you'll have the same experience, really feel like validated and understood, and have like a whole new vocabulary for how to explain what they like, what they don't like, their strengths, their weaknesses, and what kind of jobs they're interested in doing, and what kind of jobs they have 0 tolerance or interest in. Okay, so let's go further with this. Battery warning. Okay, we're all good now. Excellent. So Okay, so here's the four areas that I keep mentioning, right? So we have the extroversion and introversion, which is, talking about where you get your recharge from. We'll go into this in more depth. There's intuition and sensing, which is the second category, which is where you get your information from. Different. Not everybody takes in information the same way. Fascinating. Most spouses, just so you know, if you're watching this with a spouse or you're going to share this information with a partner later, keep in mind, especially if you're trying to figure out while you're figuring out yours, are almost always three letters opposite. So if you're an extrovert, they're an introvert. If you're intuitive, they're sensing. So thinking and feeling is the third category. How do you make decisions? There's the more logical and the more emotional. We'll go into that. And then perceiving versus judging, which is not what these words sound like at all. These are leaving your perception open and making a judgment, which is more like making a plan. So do you plan? Do you not plan? How do you like that? So here's a little bit of a easier chart for some people to see, a little bit more of a visual. So here's the four categories. So you see how easily we'll get these four letters. So if you're an extrovert, we'll take the E, and then if you're intuitive, we'll take the N. If you're a feeler, we'll take the F. And if you're a perceiver, we'll take the P, and then your type is ENTP. And then that is a whole special code on its own that gives us a whole bunch of information about you and gives us a general sense of what you're going to like in your career, and what components you absolutely need. And I find this to be, with thousands of people I've worked with, fascinatingly true over every single person in the world. It's quite incredible. Okay, so before we start, if you don't have a pen and paper, please take a minute to grab one. Of course, if you're on your phone, that works. Just open up your notepad or anything to write with. Actually, I'm sorry, not on your phone. We want to actually see physical handwriting. So take a minute, get an actual writing instrument and something that you can write on: napkin, paper, tissue box. Okay. And so I'm going to ask you to do this. I want you to write today's date, December 1st, and your name on top of the piece of paper, and write it with your dominant hand. As soon as you're done, put the pen down, pick it up in your non-dominant hand. So for me, my dominant hand is my right. So I'm writing December 1st, Shayna Karen. And then I'm going to put the pen in my left hand and write December 1st, Shayna Karen. Okay. If you've done that, I'm not sure if it's in the chat or in the Q&A, whichever one's working. Let's just stick to the Q&A. Tell me what the difference was like. Okay, thank you. I see that comments are coming in. Okay, and all these questions will be answered at the end. Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I do see. No, I'm not sure if everyone's still coming in with the wrong name. Okay, so it's definitely much harder in the non-dominant hand. It's really messy. It's hard to do. The right one is neater. The other one is messier. The non-dominant one looks like a little kid, much slower. Excellent. Thank you for your responses. Okay, so we all have two hands, thank God. And when we all have a hand that we prefer to write with, and it's much easier, and then a hand that it's much harder to write with, yet we can write with both of them. So that's an analogy for personality type. There, you just like you have both hands, and you can do things with either one. Almost nobody is ambidextrous, is like perfectly capable of doing things, the same thing with both their hands. So there might be something that you prefer to do with your left hand, even if it's your non-dominant hand. Some people like to throw with that hand, but you still have a preference. So with personality type, it's the same thing. You can do anything. You can pretend to be extroverted if you're introverted. You can act more sensing and practical, even if you're intuitive, but there's still a natural preference. So you can switch between them. It's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel messy. It's going to take you longer, and there's going to be a bit more of recovery time. Does that make sense? So I want to go through the personality types with that in mind. Now, before we go into it, I want you to be able to take this quiz as we go along, so that you get your actual results while we're here, because there's no way I can give each person their own results. And so I'm going to drop that into the chat right here. Okay, good. Let's post this to everyone, and let's make sure we're putting in the right message. Here. There we go. Okay, so take a second, open up another browser. You see this, it's content.leadquizzes.com slash a bunch of letters and numbers. So what I want you to do is open that up, and I'll show you what it looks like. This is what you should be seeing. I hope my screen is switching to this new screen. Yeah, it looks like it is. So that's what you should be seeing. So this is a live quiz. You can click on ready, and then we'll go over here as we go through each thing. Okay, so make sure you have that open. Does anyone have any problems getting that open? Okay, we'll share it afterwards in the follow-up in case anyone doesn't get it. Okay, so you don't have to go there now, but I just want you to have that and be aware of it. So the first question that I want you to think about, and you can write this down too, on the piece of paper that I hope you have out, or this you could use on your phone or whatever is convenient for you. Think about any time that you've been at a public get-together. It could be a party, it can be any kind of event, it can be a seminar, it can be a weekend retreat. But I want you to think about what your favorite elements of a party or an event is. And take a minute and think about that. And then I want you to actually type that into the chat. Okay, and some answers are speaking with interesting people. Some answers are more, and you can private message me, so this doesn't have to go public if you don't want it to. Some answers are more public, connecting to people, sitting on the side with a new smart person I met, sitting down with a group, talking to the people that I know, not the strangers. Excellent. Okay. So I love these answers. Some people like learning the new things, the organized part, being totally relaxed. Let's just see the Q&A. Yeah. Okay. I see them coming in both places. Excellent. Okay. So depending on your answer, you're probably already have an idea if you're an extrovert or an introvert, right? So the extrovert, and I see some of you already went through the whole quiz and you know your personality type. So hold on, because we're going to cover more about careers for each personality type. So you're going to learn something. So the difference with the extroverts and the introverts is that when an extrovert, using our party example, goes to a party, they are energized by the people. So they have this like internal battery that the more they're with people, it gets filled up and they get like on a high and recharge. They love the group atmosphere. They like being the center of attention. Now, all these things don't have to be true. You can be shy and be an extrovert, and you don't want to be the center of attention, but you love being around the group of people. They like to talk a lot. They like the fast pace. They like a lot of new information. They like hearing shows or things that talk about a lot of things than one specific topic. And then the introverts are completely the opposite. Those of you who answered sitting on the side with one person, right? I relate to that a lot as an introvert. Don't like being the center of attention. More thoughtful. More private. Just a couple of friends. So that's the difference. So now on the next slide, when you go to the quiz, this is going to be the first question. So the party example or this example, at the end of a long day, how do you usually recharge? So thinking about that battery, the introvert is going to say the first thing. I like people, but when it's time to recharge, when my battery is low, then I need to spend time alone. And that's how I'm filling up my battery again. That's how I'm recharging, doing something that I enjoy that's just me. Now, you could enjoy one-on-one. I find that a lot of introverts enjoy interpersonal connections, but with one person at a time. So if you think about a therapist, when I have an extrovert who tells me that they're thinking of becoming a therapist, I describe a picture of a small room with 2 chairs, and a lamp, a desk, typical therapist office, and ask them to visualize sitting in that room all day, back-to-back sessions, maybe 5 sessions a day, maybe more, maybe less on a typical day. And I asked them if that seems like an enjoyable place to spend their day. And the introverts say, yeah, that sounds so peaceful. Maybe I want my own little coffee corner. Maybe it would be nice if there would be other people working in other offices down the hall that I can collaborate or have lunch with once in a while. But that sounds wonderful. And the extroverts right away are like, oh, that sounds depressing. It sounds terrible. So you could like spending an hour with people, but not all day with people. And so click on that, and you'll get your results when we're up to that later on. Yes, if your answer, great question, thank you. So if your answer is a combination of both, I want you to think of your typical day. I see a lot of times that happens with teens. Say when you're in high school, so you're not going to really have friends if you act all introverted. So you might spend a lot of time socializing and talking to people. And then they'll come home and have to, if they're not part of a study group or socializing or going shopping with their peer group, they're going to feel left out. But then they're very likely to get tired or worn out or just feel sick or spend the weekends. And this is with adults too, but I think that teenagers are less in touch and just trying to do what their friends are doing. But the introvert is much more likely to burn out versus the extrovert. If you're not sure, think about a weekend. If you host a weekend, or if you hosted Thanksgiving, or if you ever host or are a guest, at what point in the weekend or the time that you're spending with other people, do you need a break? Is it after the first evening? Is it after the first day? At what point do you say, like, I need to go to my room, I need a private room, and I need to just decompress for 2-3 hours all alone? So an extrovert will take a while until they say that. An introvert, it's going to be just a couple of hours in where they'll feel like, I need a break. The more introverted you are, the faster you're going to need that break. But that usually helps people figure it out. If you're not sure, please type in your question. Okay. So let me just make sure if there are any other introvert, yeah. When people who reply that it depends on the people, I'm seeing, one second here. Someone asked for the, I have to put in the chat, the link to the personality quiz again. Yes, let's put it back in there. There it is. Okay, yeah. Please follow along, or you can do it afterwards. Just make sure that you have the link open. So thank you for these questions. This is great. So if someone says that they consider themselves an extrovert, but I love the deeper connection with my few friends, get energy for myself as well. So I want to know why you consider yourself an extrovert. But an extrovert doesn't mean that you're a shallow person. It still could mean that you have your core group of a couple of friends. But your couple of friends might be 4 or 5 people. An introvert's couple of friends might be 1 to 3 people. So even that might tell you something. And it doesn't mean that you don't have deep relationships. It just means that you're more likely to enjoy meeting somebody new at work, or a new neighbor, expanding your social network, getting to know lots of people. Now, if you're shy, extroverted could get things a little bit confused, because you might not like meeting new people. So say you go to a party or a wedding or some kind of celebration, and people who wrote that I only like speaking to the people who I already know. So you can be a shy extrovert. The question is how long you like to socialize with them. And then, is it enjoyable if somebody else is making the introductions? Maybe you have a best friend there who is taking care of the introductions. Then do you enjoy meeting new people? If that takes away the shy factor, that's another thing to consider. Okay, so let's move on to the next area. So the extrovert and introvert, that should give you a pretty good sense. And as you're going through this, I want you to keep in mind for other people as well. And if anyone wants any book suggestions, if you really want to study this in depth, you'll see on the personality type results, there's a book, Nurture by Nature, that I recommend, and feel free to email me for more book suggestions. Okay, we're up to the second section of personality type. So on your sheet of paper, I want you to write something about this apple that we're all looking at. Anyone who has a question, I see that between the Q&A and the chat, so I'm going to go to the chat at the end and make sure I answer any questions. So drop it in there, and then for the back and forth during this session, use the chat now that they're both working. Okay, good. I see some responses coming in. Perfect. Okay. So we have 2 kinds of responses. Some people are giving us the physical attributes of this apple. Red, round, that's how it looks. People like that are sensors. If you answered something that is like a physical description, something that uses the 5 senses, you're probably, most likely, of course, this is just one example, in the sensing category. Now, people who wrote, okay, so now there's some people who are in between, like round, red, shiny, and healthy. Healthy is not a physical thing. Might be, but that's a little bit more of like an idea. The person who wrote nourishing, bright, cheerful, juicy, colorful, energizing, notice how there isn't a single physical word in there. It's all conceptual. Isn't that fascinating? Okay, so yeah, delicious snack, peel it, slice and enjoy it. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Love that. That sounds like an intuitive answer. Red, delicious, healthy, juicy. You might be in between, but probably a little bit more of the sensor. Excellent. Okay, I love your answers. Thank you. So the way that you answer that gives us a clue, and it's not like you're definite just because you answered one question that way, but it gives us an idea of how you take in information. So the sensors here, when you were looking at the apple, you used your five senses. So sensors trust what is certain and what is concrete. We know that the apple is red. We know that the apple is shiny. They only like new ideas if there's practical applications. They value realism. They like to use skills that they already have. So if you already know how to play piano, you're more likely to upgrade your piano skills than switch to using the guitar. They tend to be very specific and literal, right? Like all those examples that we just had. Present information logically and are very oriented to the present. Sensors take in information with their five senses. That's the first thing that they notice. Intuitives, you see how I didn't tell you what I was looking for, but you naturally answered by the way you were taking information. So intuitives, they trust inspiration and inference. They like new ideas. They value imagination. They love learning new things. They learn the piano. They learn how to do it a little bit. Then they learn the guitar. Then they move on to the bongos. Tend to be general, figurative, metaphors, analogies, present information in a roundabout way and oriented towards the future. What could this apple do for me? Right. And the way that that people give information, intuitives, the way they take in information is much more through their sixth sense. So the way that they feel about something, someone. So if you or someone you know is an intuitive, when you meet somebody new, you might not remember exactly what they look like or what they were wearing or what their jewelry looked like, but you will remember a sense that you got about them, and you'll know something about them that they might not have even told you. The sensor, if you have a sensor relative or friend and you met someone new, they'll say like, oh, what they look like, what they say. And you might not even have that information, but the sensor will. They'll know practically what was discussed, how it was said, the decor in the room, and whether or not there was, there was good lighting. They'll notice all of those things. So on the quiz, you can hop back over. If you're doing it now, feel free to do it later if you want. You can click on the answer to this question, which if the description to the sensor and you describe the apple as red, then you are A. If I see it, it exists. I'm practical, realistic, down to earth, present, and in the moment, right? And then the B's, there are people who should select B are the people who feel like they're more intuitive. It might seem like I'm here, but I'm really imagining things as we speak. Okay, so this is going to bring up a couple of questions. I see people are asking. This is a good question. Nice, shiny, crunchy apple. So I have a couple of more questions for you. I would say that think about when you meet a new person. Think about if somebody's describing a business plan to you. So a sensor wants to know exactly how it's going to work. How are you going to have the money? What's the location going to be? What's the square footage going to be? What's your business plan? The intuitive wants to know the idea, the possibilities, the potential, and what your vision is, right? Do either of those work for you? That's interesting. If it was a person, my response would have been different. Yeah, well, interesting. So what would your response have been if it was a person? If it was the person on the screen, I wonder though, because someone who's a sensor would say, man, woman, blonde, right? But someone who's an intuitive would probably say kind or mean. They would describe the emotion that they associate with this person. Red and fresh, yeah, it could be either. So it's the same thing as we're describing with the hands, like the dominant and the non-dominant. Nobody is only one. There's no such thing as a sensor who has zero intuition, and that's what gets confusing. And there's no such thing as someone who has intuition, who has not grounded at all. But I want you to think about when you see something new, when you're shopping or when you're meeting people or when you walk into a new space, what is the first thing that you notice? Are you more down to earth, practical, realistic? You know what is? People who are very in tune with their environment. Someone who could be a detective. Now it's interesting because the detective example, so someone who would be a detective would be a sensor because they notice all the physical things, but somebody who might be really good at reading personalities and picking up on things, they might be like a good interviewer. That would be more of an intuitive person. That's interesting. Someone saying, I always thought I was intuitive, but I wrote the apple is crisp, juicy, tart. Yeah, so one example shouldn't define it for you. It's just a general way of seeing it. But I would still ask you more questions about like, are you more down to earth, practical, or are you more thinking about possibilities? You know, if you have kids, you start imagining when they're young, what they're going to be like when they're older. You know, when you're dating someone, are you thinking about, well, you know, what your relationship is going to be in 10 years from now? If you buy a house, you start visualizing how we're going to redo it. So people who are intuitive are always jumping 10 steps ahead and always imagining the future. People who are sensors kind of get frustrated at those conversations and they say like, why are we talking about this thing if it's not real? Like, do you have plans to redo your house? So why are you talking about it? Right? And intuitives enjoy the fantasy, enjoy the imagination, and often end up doing things because of the imagination that a sensing person wouldn't have done because it wasn't practical. Okay, yeah. So I see it's bringing up a lot of questions, which is a really good start. I, hmm, this is a very good question. Okay, type it in. Any question that didn't get answered, type it into the chat. We'll touch base with it at the end. Okay, so click on intuitive or sensing, whichever one feels more right to you. Again, you could use this link as many times as you want, so you can. It's fine. If you don't know the answer right now, you can try different ways. If you've done 16 personalities, it's not necessarily accurate. Again, we're trying to guess based on the way you view yourself. Personality type is a self-analysis. It doesn't matter if everyone around you thinks you're a certain way. It's more of how you see yourself. So your opinion is most important. And so what I like to do is to explain to you how it works and what we're looking for so that you could make a decision. If you're struggling, I would recommend looking at the Pathfinder, which is a book that I use a lot, and there's an excellent chart. Hopefully we'll have it soon on the Rockport website. But there's a chart, you can email me for it. And that goes through like much more detailed list of each of the each of the personality types, and that can also give you a better description. Okay, so part number 3. The prompt for this one is write down your greatest fear or fantasy regarding conflict. And by write it down, we mean type it into the chat. And you could put yourself as anonymous. Doesn't need to be your actual person if you want. But this could be a fear or this could be a fantasy. This could be a good thing or a bad thing. But when you think about conflict, what's the best or worst thing that you can imagine happening? Perfect. Keep going. Excellent. Thank you for those of you who shared so far. Okay, this is so funny. It's all the same names. Okay. Oh, good. Some people have their own name. I love this. Okay. So some people have the feeler response and some people have the thinking response. So we have some people who are really afraid. The worst thing happening is that I will ruin a relationship or I'll hurt somebody. I'll be abandoned, right? So those are the people who are coming from, usually people who give that answer are what we call feelers. Much more on the, here, let me switch screens so you can see. Okay, so feelers are usually people who will answer much more emotionally. Like conflict to them means, oh no, somebody's feelings getting hurt, my feelings getting hurt, something bad happening. And then we have some really practical answers, logical answers, where conflict, like, someone wrote, I don't see any fear in conflict. One person, oh, okay, no, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. This answer is very logical. We argue and hear each other's views and opinions, but come to a better understanding and end up leaving with mutual respect, being able to resolve the conflict, improving the situation. Being able to see someone's point of view. And other people are like, I don't want to see conflict at all. Excellent. Okay, these are great answers. So the way that we deal with decision making is completely different. And we have really 2 general categories for it. So people who are feelers, emotion is the first thing. So conflict to them means like, oh no, I'm going to insult somebody or somebody's going to hurt me. And emotion is the driving thing, the first thing that comes up when they're making a decision. And so they tend to be very conflict avoidant. And there's obviously other reasons why a person could be conflict avoidant, like their family of origin and the place that they held in the family and their birth order and things like that. But that often gets exacerbated by your natural personality type. So feelers really think about, well, when I make a decision, how is this going to affect other people? And in careers, feelers really care to have jobs that make a difference. And when a feeler has a job that uses their brain and is making good money, but it doesn't feel to them like they're helping people, they don't feel like they're able to be in touch with other people, or they don't feel appreciated, that really bothers them. Now, thinkers, all of you who are thinkers responded very differently, just very logically, like, oh, we'll learn something new. We'll come up with a new idea. Like, what's the problem with it? So people who are thinkers, they live more in their minds, more logically, and differences of opinions aren't personal to them, and it doesn't feel like a personal attack. It feels much more like, oh, this is some new information. This is interesting. They might enjoy debating with someone, not feeling like it's an argument, but just like, oh, okay, that's your point of view. I want to share this point of view. Oh, let's hash that back and forth. Let's come to an agreement. And it's not a negative thing at all. So in work, this makes a fascinating difference because the thinkers like jobs that use their head. And when they say, when a thinker feels unsatisfied, it's usually because they weren't using their logical brain at work. They were maybe involved in more like emotional, social, emotional things. And they could be very good at that, but they might not feel like they're intellectually stimulated at all. And feelers, even if they're very smart, they want to use their brain, but it feels very valuable to care about other people and to be valued for the work that they do. So I see right away when somebody isn't happy, this usually gives us a very good idea of what's going on. I had a client who became a nurse and thought that she would be able to make a difference to people, but the kind of job that she was in was very formal, didn't really have a lot of contact with the patients, and she was very burnt out, and it made a lot of sense. She needed a job where she was in touch with the people, where she was helping them. And so it's not even just the profession that needs to match, but it's also the job itself that needs to match. Just make sure. Yes, good comments. Thank you for these comments. I appreciate the interaction. Excellent. Okay, good. Okay, so that's the thinkers and feelers and the difference. I hope you identified it. Make sure that you in the quiz over here, if you're following with us now, so you want to click on the one that matches you more. Of course, everybody has a heart and everybody has a brain. And the question is really which one gets activated first when you're making a decision. Should I buy this house? Should I buy this pair of shoes? Should I take this job or not? Where do you go first? Do you go first to your head or first to your heart? What's your first reaction? And that usually helps people figure it out, because when you're in front of a decision, the question, what happens first? Now, not what happens last. The interesting thing is that whatever you end up doing, so maybe you're more of a feeler, but you made a logical decision because you had the voice of someone else in your head who's like, do the right thing. You won't necessarily be happy with the decision that you made afterwards. But if you're a feeler and you made a feeling decision, even if it doesn't seem logical, you'll still be very comfortable with that decision, because that's what's most important. So it's not a right or a wrong, it's a preference. And based on your personality, you want to make choices that are aligned with your personality. And that's what you're going to ultimately be most satisfied with. Okay, I hope you found the answer to that one. Okay, so the last one is pretty easy for people to recognize themselves. And this one is planning. So vacation, you could use any example, doesn't need to be vacation, but you could type into the chat as well for this one. When you go on vacation, what's your favorite way to go on vacation? Is it like, let's pick up and go, we'll figure it out? Do you like to plan every detail down to the last piece of cheese that you're going to be eating 6 months in advance? That would be the people who are the planners. And then we have the people who, well, like kind of, I want to have a plan. I want to know where I'm sleeping when I get there, but I don't want to have to be stuck to an itinerary. So which one are you? How do you plan vacation? Excellent. Okay. So we have some planners, we have some basic planners, minimal planning, let things happen. Yeah. Okay. Good. Keep them coming. Plan the big stuff, leave the moment for the rest. Excellent. I need a plan. I hate it when it's not planned. Just go. Excellent. Okay, love these answers. Okay, so the way you answered this question is pretty telling for this last category of personality type. So people who are judgers, which means that you like to make a judgment and move on. As soon as you made the plan with all the details, then you can let go. Then you feel like, oh, okay, good, everything's under control. Now, you could be a very flexible person, and if something in that plan doesn't work out, that's fine, right? It doesn't mean that you're a very anxious person. It doesn't mean that you're very uptight or very rigid, but it does mean that you feel much better when the tickets are booked, when we know where we're going, when we have the itinerary and we have, the reservations made. Then you feel much better. The perceivers, if they're with somebody who's making all of those plans, the more planning that gets done, the more actually uptight they get, or the more stressed they get. For a perceiver, having everything locked in, obviously sometimes it's good and they're happy about it, but it gives them the sense of like, oh, now I can't change it. Like now I'm stuck doing that. We have a boat ride scheduled for 7 a.m. What if I decide to sleep in? No, very likely they're going to be very happy waking up and enjoying the boat ride, but the plan kind of makes them feel constricted, and perceivers love to leave their options open. So the more options that I have, and the closer to when the thing is going to happen I get to decide, the better I feel. So they can both plan the exact same trip, but it's a lot more about how they feel about it. Now, if your family member is the opposite, you might have learned to be the opposite, more structured or more spontaneous. But we still want to think about what your natural personality type is and what you naturally feel better. Like a day of vacation, is your ideal day of vacation perfectly planned and there's tons to do? Or is it like vacation means not having a plan, right? So that's like, I think, the easiest one to figure out about yourself. You can go on the quiz as well and click on the, which one, plan, why plan, or I love knowing what's going to happen. And then it's going to prompt you to put in your name, and then you'll get your result. But just another minute to discuss this. I see a bunch of questions. Yes. Okay. Yes. Having a parent who's the opposite will drive you nuts. Default style, like perceiver, plan a vacation to the detail because perfectionist, I want to work it out. Have a super hard time making decisions because, yes, exactly. You're describing your perceiver. Project managers are judgers. Oh, of course. Yeah. We don't want a perceiver being a project manager. The project manager needs to be the one pushing things along, who loves the schedule, who could plan in advance very well. Now, there's other things that go into that, like if you're very analytical, you could like planning, but not be very good at planning. So your personality type is still a judger, but you may not have the skills to do it. So you'll love working under someone else or in a company where there's structure, right? But not necessarily do you have the skills. And that's where the IQ, the rest of the testing that a career coach would be able to help a person figure out. What if I like a general plan but don't need the details? So that could be like, is it because you're not analytical? Do the details stress you out? Or is it that you just don't like planning the details? What if somebody else planned them for you? Would you like it? So that's answering that question might give you a little bit more insight. If you would feel claustrophobic with a definite plan, you're probably a perceiver. And think about work. If you knew, next Tuesday at, 12:15 p.m. exactly who you're going to be speaking to, what you're going to do, and that was in your calendar and that would make you feel good, that sounds like a judger. If a perceiver wants a little flexibility, they want to know, well, who knows what might happen? Things could change. We'll see what I'm in the mood of doing then, or we'll see what this client shows up with. If you don't want the details planned, that would be a perceiver who's just good at organizing. So you want to have a basic structure in place, but you don't want, like, wanting to leave things open is always a sign of a perceiver. I learned to plan things out since I fancies like that. And yes, you kind of appreciate it and even enjoy knowing the plans, but your authentic type is a perceiver who gets the benefit of being married to someone who's a judger. So that means that your vacations are planned, your meals are planned, how you're going to spend your days are planned. But you probably prefer if they don't tell you too much in advance, like you just know that they have the plan, right? And if you're somebody who likes if you're someone who likes planning and you have a friend or a close relative that doesn't like it, you probably notice that if you ask them weeks in advance if they want to do something with you, they won't be able to answer you. They'll just kind of push you off. But if you ask them the day of or the week of, they'll probably have a very definite answer. And that's a really good hack for understanding how they work. Just the locking in is what stresses them out. And then maybe you need to buy tickets 3 months in advance, and then you just don't want to invite them because they can't come. But usually you probably want to buy those tickets in advance and then just tell them the week of, that works. Obviously, maybe don't try that at home. But the general idea is that they just don't like it locked in. It doesn't mean that they're not going to actually be happy to do it. So interesting. When you've taken the Myers-Briggs, you've got an INFP, but you've got an TP. You can take it a couple of times. I mean, the biggest difference that I'm seeing is the S and the N, which is a pretty big difference. Like if you're an N, then you're really futuristic. You're really intuitive. The first, you're not so down to earth. You're not so practical. You might maybe don't enjoy practical sessions. The F or the T is also really different. It's not the same kind of person. Like a T really likes a good debate, really has no problem arguing with somebody. The F really avoids that at all costs. Okay, so keep taking it. And the biggest way to know is when you see your results. So after you type this in, then here's just sample. This is not actually my type, but here's a sample. So you should be able to see this. If this doesn't feel like it describes you, like at least 75%, take it again. Then it's not accurate. Yeah, if you don't like arguments, you're an F. Yes. Okay, good. I see some types coming in. Excellent. Yeah, now this is, again, it's about self-analysis. So it's not like the test said I'm this. It's you who decides. Yeah, no, just because if you took 16 personalities, it's very often wrong because it's this, you're not speaking to a person, it's just general information. But if it doesn't really resonate with you, the description doesn't make sense, then it's not you. Like you need to recognize yourself in it. If you like arguments and think you're a feeler, so I'm a T. I'm very empathetic. I need to do work where I feel like I make a difference. I cry from reading like a fake story that never happened. I can be very emotional. You can be very sensitive. You can be very empathetic. Still, if I have an opinion about something and I think it, I have no problem arguing with somebody. So like you can again have both sides of it. Just because you're sensitive, emotional, empathetic, you have feelings, doesn't make you automatically a feeler. It's how you make a decision. When you make a cost-effective decision, do you feel really good about yourself, or do you wish that you would have just splurged a little and bought yourself that thing, right? Someone who likes intellectual debates is definitely a feeler. Well, yeah, you could, the more your brain is like good at problem solving, it's possible to be like that, but I would want to have a conversation with you to really figure it out. I'm not sure what this question is, so where it falls assertively. I think that the more you like asserting yourself is probably more T, and it's not because you're more confident, it's just because you don't necessarily see it as a personal thing at all. You're just talking about a topic. Yeah, so someone's asking, we're not going to be going into the deeper part of MBTI, the function steps. No, that's like way beyond what we're doing tonight. Now, another question, a great question is, how does this help? For instance, I see myself as being an extrovert, but burned out and doing customer service or helping professions where I'm dealing with unhappy people. Yeah, well, you're doing extroverted work, but do you like actually helping people? You might like socializing. You like talking to your friends. You don't like dealing with annoying people. Yeah, that doesn't mean that you're stuck doing that. Absolutely not. Okay. Okay, so I see a bunch more questions. Let's get to them. I want to make sure that we're covering the general types. So if you found yourself in these types, I want to just cover a couple of like job things that that come up for each types. Okay, so SJs, right? Anybody who's a down-to-earth, practical, and who really likes planning, you are going to fall into this general category. And you can see the male and female breakdown and how common they are. So if you're an NT, you're the least common. If you're an SJ, you probably know a lot more people like you. You're probably the one who, so SJs, if for yourself, or again, if you're going to be using this tool to advise other people, SJs are protectors. They love running things since they notice what is. They're very realistic, very down to earth, and they're good at planning. So someone gave the example of a project manager. That's excellent. Most administrators, schools, hospitals, clinics, any kind of program, and SJ is usually the one who's in charge, who should be in charge. They keep track of the information and they really like planning it. Someone who's planning out, if you're applying for your kids to school or for yourself to school for next year, the person who's running that program is planning already for a year or two from now. That needs to be an SJ. That's always going to be like that. And people who are SJs love being in jobs like that. Now, if you're an extrovert or an introvert, you want to be more front facing or less facing. If you're a F or a T, so the feelers want to be more having direct contact, feeling like they're maybe working for a nonprofit and helping people. The T's want to be doing more logical work, maybe like more in the financial departments, but it's still going to make a big difference. Again, we're not going so deep into this because I don't want to keep everyone here all night. In the career coach training, for those of you who are really interested in this and really want to be able to learn these skills, we do go much, much deeper into this and to much more. Okay, the next general categories. So SP. So I love this category. SPs are they're artists, right? Because they're practical, they're down to earth, they notice everything, but they're flexible. Things are open. So it doesn't mean that they love doing what we think of a classic artist of like painting or drawing or that kind of art, but whatever they do is kind of, it's practical, down to earth, but it's open-ended. So like they might be a lawyer, right? If they're like an E, so they're an extrovert, and then they're an S, and then they're a TP and ESTP. So they like debate, they like logic. They wake up every morning not knowing what every conversation is going to look like, what meetings are going to look like. There's a lot of fluidity, there's a lot of spontaneity in there, but they're still doing very practical, down to earth work. But then we could take an ISFP and maybe they're creating custom jewelry. And again, each piece has that like open-ended, you don't necessarily know what it's going to look like. And it's very practical, very grounded, very down to earth. The third category, which is the third most common, are the people who are the helpers. I find that a large percentage of my clients are INFPs. And I think that INFPs, ENFPs too, but INFPs are the most likely to care about a job being a good fit for them, even though they're not the most common type. They're the ones who win that debate about, like, does the job need to be passion? Should my job be something that I personally care about, or should it just be a job that pays the bills? So it depends on your personality, but the NFs are the ones who they don't really care about money as much as they try to make themselves care about it. They really care about making an impact. So they're intuitive. So they pick up on the like insightful areas of other people, things, places. And then they have this feeling sense where they really want to make a difference. You put that together, you get the perfect teacher or therapist. Now, if they're an extrovert, they're probably going to like teaching. If they're an introvert, they're going to like more of the one-on-one. If they're a J, they probably will become like a rehab director if they're interested in psychology. Almost all NFs are interested in psychology. If they're a P, then they might end up doing something more in the artistic or something more related to animals or something that's more open-ended, but they're certainly going to want to be in the helping profession. If you're an NF and you're not doing something where you feel like making a difference, you probably aren't happy. Okay, and then the last one, which is the least common, which I think they're also pretty misunderstood because most people aren't like this. So if you're an NT, then you're kind of like a little bit in your head. So you pick up on all those like emotional things, but then it's very logical. So career coaching is actually a good fit for people who are NTs because you care about the psychology and understanding people, but you want to do something practical with information. NTs really care about overarching hierarchies and systems, like big picture. They're very much visionaries and they really love learning. So people who dig into personality types, who want to know a lot about themselves, a lot about other people, dig into topics are often NTs. And in their careers, NTs always need to be kind of the one in charge, or even if they're not in charge of everything, but they want to be like in charge of their work. They don't really like when other people telling them how to do things or what to do. Obviously, if they're a J or a P, it's going to make a slight difference, but they usually have like a very big picture vision of what they want to do and the way that things should be run. They make very good advisors and consultants if they have the patience to work their way up to it. And if they have that visualizing possibilities, which is something that we test for also, then they usually really have a good sense of that. Okay, I see a couple of comments. I'm going to go check in on that. Yes, that's why you're self-employed. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I see a couple of questions that we are going to touch on. Yeah. Okay. So so here is another sample of results. So here I was mentioning the visualizing possibilities. So that's here. So someone who has that high is actually really good at futuristic kind of thinking. Someone who's low is not. So that's going to make a very big difference. You see how the type indicator on this one, there's E, so E17, I8. So they scored much higher in extroversion. And then the S, so S, a little confusing. N3, S17, they scored much higher in the sensing. Then F and T, they scored both of them 6. So that means that not that they were exact, but that when they tested, they answered the questions exact. And then whenever I work with a client, any coach works with a client, they help them figure it out. So we give them both options. Anyone who scores very close, again, if you're scoring very close, you want to schedule a call with a coach, you certainly are welcome to do so. Most coaches on the Rockport website, I think they all offer free calls. I offer free calls. I have a free career Q&A that you can reach out to, coach@shanakaren.com. I'll drop that into the chat. Or you could go on my website and schedule a call if you have any specific questions that you think you need more of a longer conversation for. And so in terms of career coaching, so anyone here who's interested in personality types, I think that a lot of you came here already knowing a little bit about it. So I hope that this gave you a little bit more of insight of how we use personality types for careers and to advise people in their careers. Now, if you are interested in career coaching, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes speaking about what that is like, and people in the career coaching learn how to read through this entire chart and how to work with people with a lot more than just this data, but this is one of the most valuable tools that you get as a Rockport coach. So I want to dedicate a couple of minutes to anyone who's interested in changing lives with a leading certification in career consulting. Now, this is specifically geared towards people who already have somewhat of a background. Now, you could be a teacher. You don't have to be an HR professional or a therapist or a social worker. But if you're in the position of someone who does give advice, it could just be something that you've done as a recruiter or as a resume writer or as a parent. Now, there's an application process. You'll see if you go to the website, Rockport Institute, there's no way to just sign up, and that's intentional because people who join the program are carefully vetted to make sure they're going to be really good ambassadors. This is the second year only that I've joined Rockport as I'm running this training, and instead it used to be just Nicholas Lore, and if someone came, there was like a one-on-one like apprenticeship, which I did in 2017, and I was the last person who did it with him. And finally he agreed for me to come on board and train because there's just such a dearth of career coaches. And I got to a point a couple of years ago where I was just completely backed up with 2-month waiting list of people to work with people. And I felt so much that it was specific people in a specific community that really are able to help. So I found myself really being able to help people who, like me, were raising families, were parents, and were mid-career, and they're trying to make a change. And that's very specific. And we still need people who are going to help the people who are returning to the workforce, people who are young and who are just starting out, people who are working with veterans, people who are working with people in different countries. And I think in every community, there's such different nuances. And the need for career coaches in every community is so great. I believe even every school should have their own. And the schools, if whatever school you went to, the vocational advisors, the career advisors, even when you go to colleges, unfortunately aren't really very well trained. And I myself went to someone at the end of high school, and I got like a recommendation to be a farmer. And what was most upsetting about that, more than the recommendation to live in a farm the rest of my life, was that I didn't get any understanding of why that was recommended, and like explain to me what my skills are. And then I spent years trying to figure this out, and I took every single career coaching program available, and I finally found this program, and I liked it so much because number one, it took some real data. It wasn't just a conversation with a person. I can speak to a therapist, I can speak to friends, I can speak to people who really know me very well. But if I'm speaking to someone career-wise, I don't want to be based on someone's mood or someone's impression of me. I want some real facts. If I'm going to become an engineer, am I spatial or am I not spatial? That's very important to know. And I've seen with the years of working with people, anyone who comes with a job that isn't a fit, we're able to see instantly in a couple of seconds how the results are mismatched with their job, and then guide them to create a career that does fit. So I'll tell you a little bit more about this program. If you're interested, obviously, in becoming an expert, help people achieve their true potential, make a nice extra or full-time income. I got a bunch of questions about if this is something to do full-time. I personally do this full-time. I love doing it. I do this every day, all day. I can, see myself doing this for a lot of years, and that's means a lot, because before I did this, approximately every 2 years, I switched jobs or careers completely because I was so bored. So this, I feel like, just gives you such an opportunity to constantly level up, work with different kinds of people, customize the kind of packages that you want to offer, learn constantly about different things. And of course, I find it fascinating. But lots of people do this as a side thing. So if you're an HR person or a business consultant, in the last class, we had 25 people who went through it. And you'll see, I'm going to take you to the website in a minute if you haven't had a chance to check it out. We have a gorgeous coach directory, so that you can see here. I'm just going to jump there because it's so gorgeous. So find a coach. So if you, this website is brand new. Was just updated with all the new coach information, all the new certification information, because Rockport actually used to be an agency model where Rockport themselves had a bunch of coaches, and most of those coaches aged out. It was founded in 1981. And so, I was brought in to kind of rejuvenate and take the information that I felt was really important that shouldn't get lost. This is the best, certification really around the world. We have coaches in Mexico and India. Not everyone's listed yet. And different countries. And this is such a powerful tool that has changed the lives of so many people that I felt that this is really something that we want to be able to take forward. The testing, as some of you probably know, used to be a paper test that was shipped to you. So now everything is completely online. And if you see on the right side, there's consultant login. That's a feature that we're bringing on shortly, where you can log in, see your clients' results, check their progress, and everyone has their own their entire own business. And so I don't believe in having an agency and taking a cut off of other people. For me, really big on entrepreneurialism and you being able to make the full amount of what you're making. Some people, if you don't want to do that, there are lots of agencies that we've had, nonprofits that people have worked for that actually paid for the person to get trained, certified recruiting agencies, lots of really amazing community organizations. And there is a 50% off scholarship for a limited amount of organizations. So if you're coming from a school or a nonprofit organization and you want to get certified to be used only in that organization, we have amazing discounts available. So I just want to show you, we have where you can search by location, you can select the budget range, and then we have, a coach directory of different people, and then you can click on all of them. So I mentioned to the guest, so I'm hoping that Rebbe Goldberger, who I'm going to just introduce you over here, said that he might be able to join us. So if he's here, you please raise his hand and we'll call him up. I know that he was giving a class up until 9:40. So he actually has a full-time job as the CEO of a co-op in Minneapolis, a nonprofit organization, and he's been working on the side, working with people who are transitioning into the workforce. And if he's here, he will share with us what his coach training was like. He was in our last year's cohort and was a star student and has really been incredible at being able to already help people and, command really decent rates and start already building a business for himself. So you can connect here. And then we have a service that is, it's still being worked on, but where you can fill out a form and someone at Rockport will connect you to a coach that we think is a good fit for you. And then I want to just show you a little bit more here. So obviously, if you don't have the time, you need at least 5 hours a week, probably not more than that. Want to learn something new, have the time to add on to your existing practice or, have time to do something else that will generate some more money, otherwise then that's not for you. Anyone who's here does get a coupon and training starts January 7th. So the doors do close in 2 weeks from now, December 15th, because the part 1 of the course is individual, where you yourself go through the testing process. We have a meeting where we go through, so you get to have your own experience. And then once the course starts, you get to work with 5 practice clients throughout. And so you've already had your own experience. And as you're learning, you're already working with clients. So by March 25th, or even earlier, because we have some bonus time there for supervision, you'll have worked with your own practice clients and learned everything that you need to know. So if you're here, you will get a $500 discount. So look out for your emails. It'll come from admin@rockportinstitute.com. So make sure that's going to your primary folder. And that's available until December 5th. So that coupon, if you're planning to join, we would love to see you join this week. And here's a little bit about the enrollment process. You can take a look at that. I'm going to catch up on the chat. Yes, there will be a recording for anyone who signed up here. Brooklyn, we have one coach in Brooklyn. His name is Shaya. He's a recruiter. He's mostly doing this to be able to help his own clients. And so we don't have a lot of people. I don't think there's anyone else in the Brooklyn area who's working, and then there's all the stages. There's the, specializing in teens who are, going to college. There's people who are specializing in people who are college students, a lot of stay-at-home moms returning to the workforce, mid-career men. So there's a lot there. What I suggest this job for a very strong extrovert. That's a good question. Yes, I do. Your practice would look very different than mine. Like I love to stay in my small office and see people privately over Zoom or in person. An extrovert would probably love going to high schools and colleges and speaking and getting out there and going to events. So you would probably customize it. Part of what we include, there's a entrepreneur track for anyone who wants to create their own business, and that includes sessions with me, where one of the most important things that we help you figure out by the end of the training, besides for how to do personal branding. And I try to teach people what I've done for myself, which is build up a personal brand that people are coming to me. I don't pay for advertisements. People know and refer me, and I've gotten my name out so that people are coming to me. And I teach you how to build up your personal brand and how to close sales, and how to do this and turn it into a real legitimate business, not just hobby or something that you do for fun. I'm really big on the people making money from this, and we have a monthly mastermind actually for anyone who graduated, where we meet and answer any questions. And one of the biggest things that I do in that and the one-on-ones that people take advantage of with me for coaches is like pushing up people's rates. So we already have coaches who are charging $750 for a session, for doing the testing and the follow-up session, 90-minute session, which you're doing preparation before and after. But I think that's incredible. And there are people who started at $250 who went up to $350 now and $450. And so I obviously don't recommend them to go up when they're worth it. But as soon as they're offering enough value, I'm really big on pushing people and guiding them, coaching them up to, building it up. So yeah, so I actually don't take a referral fee. Rockport does not take a referral fee. Just for being certified, you get listed on the directory. As long as you're active, I think you had to have like, 1 or 2 clients a year or something. Then your listing is there. So that as many clients as are interested in you who come to rockportinstitute.com and look for a coach in their area. And you can, when you're creating your filter, you have the option to put in the budget, your specialty. So you'll see like the find a coach. So no, it's not there. I'm on the wrong page. But when you go over here, so like, let's say I want to select a location. So Maryland, someone asked if there's anyone in Maryland. Yeah, so there's only one in Maryland, and you can read her bio. You can actually reach out to her. She's a recruiter, and she did this to be able to do career coaching as a side thing. And then you can select the budget. So is there anybody in Maryland? No, who charges this much? There isn't. Is there anyone in, let's see, New York, who does pre-retirement planning? No. So like there's so much space. We have so few coaches for the demand that we have. I get calls all the time and I try to refer them to people, but I really believe in having someone who's a specialist in your area. I'm seeing New York, Nick Davidson. You can read his bio. He's an incredible coach. He's a business coach. He's an advisor, and he's using this with his clients. If you go to the lower budget, you probably get some more people. Yeah, there's a couple of people who are don't have as much professional experience, and I also help people figure out. I help each of the coaches figure out what they should be charging based on their own experience and your profession. So if you're already a rabbi or a therapist, then you're probably gonna be able to charge more because you're already coming with a whole bunch of other background. And if you're just starting out, then you're gonna probably have rates that are according, like if you're a teacher and you're trying to help other teachers who want to exit, so you'll be able to charge something, but it's going to be according to your experience. So here is the schedule of the class. So once December 5th, the discount is over. So anyone who wants to get that $500 off, you need to sign up by the end of this week, by Thursday at midnight Eastern time. And then you'll have 2 weeks where you'll have a chance to take the test, and I will have a one-on-one consultation with you before the 7th. So we're leaving some time for the holidays over there. And then we have live class every single week. So the way that it works is, you see, so here's that schedule. The way that the class works is that you get live videos. The content is dropped a week in advance of the live class, and then you have to watch that. And sometimes there's work to do, never more than 5 hours total to do all week. And then we have live class discussion where you get to ask your questions, and it's not like this. It's actually live, and people, unmute themselves, and it's like a regular Zoom call where we have fantastic discussions, and that gets recorded. And then you'll see as we go through the different weeks. So you'll see like by week 5, where we teach you how to do the client intake and what information you're looking for. And we give you sample forms that you can copy, and most people use them. And then we have a live preview coaching. So we have you pair up with someone in the class, and you actually get a pretend client with all their information, their forms, their data, their results, their resume, and then you prepare as if it was a real client, and you present it to the class. And then we have you going through actual clients and presenting it to the class. And so by the time you're done, you've done fake clients, pretend fake clients, real paid clients. By the time you're done, you're ready to take on paid clients. And, the people who took the course last year are, many of them have taken on quite a nice number of paid clients already. And so they're working. And they're doing it. So we cover, everything to do with the aptitude testing. Personality is just one thing, all of the 13 aptitudes, and then actually working with clients, which is, I think, the most valuable thing, because you could learn a lot of this information, but knowing how to do it, knowing how to run your business, knowing what to do with different client situations. We give like a super, super, super comprehensive training. I created this training based on everything that I learned from Nick, all of the books in my library, which is extensive, and then my 7 years of working with thousands of clients, and I put it together to the best possible training that I wish I could have received. And so you go out so prepared to be a career coach and to specialize in your specific niche, which, if you want to do the entrepreneur track, we have like a lot of information. Let's just switch over there to the entrepreneur track. Find it. So here, if you go onto the website, the certification, you click learn more, you'll see there's only an apply now button. So that will lead you to an application. If you are interested, you just need to fill out this form and somebody will get back to you. Sometimes if you have the experience that we're looking for, and we've checked out your resume and your LinkedIn, you'll get automatically accepted. Sometimes you'll get a maybe, we need a call. You're always welcome to schedule a call. That call is with me. So if you want to discuss it, you're thinking about it, you're not sure if it's right for you, I turn away more people than I accept. And so I'm very, very honest. If I think it's a good fit for you, I only want people here who are going to really be able to make a living from this, or be able to work with your own career. And I'm a career coach at heart, and I'm a teacher at heart. And I really care that people who take this will really, really benefit from it. And it will really help build up your career, and it will really use the skills that you have, and you have the right skills. And so lots of people I've turned away, and I would love to have a conversation with you if that would be helpful and you'd like more information. And you can look through the website. There's lots of detail here. It covers what you'll receive with this, the different certifications that you'll have, and then the difference of other tests. And people have asked me, like, how does this compare to the Colby or the StrengthsFinder? And the difference is that those are tests that are based on your answers. When you take the Rockport assessment, it's not based on what you think about yourself or what you're in the mood of. You're taking a legitimate, like an IQ test, where depending on how your brain works, you will do you'll either do this or that. And it's a very accurate way of testing your actual cognitive functions. And then when we put that together with your personality type, and with the amount of income you want to make, and with your personal life circumstances, and with the location that you live in, we're going to come up with the most ideal thing. And that's where it goes a little bit into coaching, which we cover to a certain extent, of how to really guide people to understand, just because you have the skills to do something doesn't mean that you should do it. And so what are the other factors, the environment, the values? And we really talk about figuring out how to put that all together to be able to guide people. And it's unbelievable, the feedback that I've gotten from the coaches who have already done the course. I'm very confident to say that this program works. And I've actually, last year, we had people submit videos of their sessions, and I really thought I was a good career coach. And then I started watching these sessions, and every time there would be, a question from the client, I would hold my tongue and just be like, oh no, they're not going to know what to say. And every single time they said exactly what I would have said. And so I'm like, wow, I'm so easily replicable. And I'm so glad about that, because that means that this format, this process really, really works. And this course really teaches you what you need to know to be able to do what I do, to be able to do what an ideal career coach should do, which is not just figuring out what kind of job is a good fit, but what kind of career fits this person's personality, goals, interests, lifestyle, and everything, as much as possible, to be able to find something that's fulfilling. And we do believe that work should be fulfilling. Work should be something that you enjoy. And work should be something that you get not only money out of, but a certain level of satisfaction. Is there anything else? Some more information. You can take a look at the website. What you receive through this program, you get a listing, you get master classes throughout the year, you get to be part of the community mastermind once you're certified of career coaches, a whole network where people ask questions, we share resources, we're building a beautiful community of career coaches around the world. And so if anyone has any other questions, I'm going to stop the share now and go into the chat and see if there's any questions that I missed. So someone who said they're looking for to work with high school and college students. So they wouldn't pay. So first of all, I have lots of parents who pay for that kind of thing. But yeah, you can get a job in a college or in an organization to work with people like that. If anyone here is a high school teacher, that's a good thing to do on the side and be able to offer a class and then to work privately with students. Could this be considered a full-time job? So I would never recommend starting it as a full-time job. The way I did it was that I had my 9-to-5 job and I got trained and I worked this nights and evenings for a full year until I made a certain income threshold that I knew that, okay, this could be a base income. And then I quit my job and I continued doing just this. I also, we don't accept, we have a policy of not accepting coaches who are unemployed. And the reason for that is that, number one, if you're going to be a career coach, we want you to be a model of someone who has a successful career, and that you need to be able to have helped yourself in the area that you're helping other people. But even more importantly than that is that we really want you to not be desperate. When you're coaching someone and you're trying to close sales with people, if you're coming from like, I need your money, right? Like that stinks, and that's not something that is very attractive to people. And that's the worst way of trying to do it. So we want people who are doing this that, is on the side where they could afford to build it up slowly so that they could really make sure that they're only working with people who they could really benefit. They're only working with the right clients. And, if I speak to someone and I don't think that they need me, I'll tell them and I'll try to give them some quick advice. So I'll say, you don't really need me. You just need a job. Call a recruiter. Or, I'm looking at your resume. I can see that maybe it just needs this tweak. That's all you need to do. So I want people to be in a position where they're able to advise people and really only take on people who do need it versus feeling like desperate for every single client. And we teach you how to build a business successfully. But I really don't want people, doing it from a stressful place. Rabbi Goldberger, if you're here, think you're here. Let me see if I can find you and promote you to panelist. Let's see. Is there a minimum age requirement? Great question. So yes, we want you to be, we write a certain age. We don't put a specific age. I would say if you're less than 25, you probably don't have enough work experience to do it. So that would probably be like a typical cutoff. Even if you're 25 though, it's not so likely that people much older than you are going to want to work with you. It's not exactly like a therapist, but in certain ways. So if you're 25 and you're helping teens, then that's great. You're helping college students and you really study this and you know it well and you have a good job and you have your own good career. That's possible. Generally, we find that career coaches do better when they're a little bit older. I actually started this when I was 28, so I wasn't the typical age. I was a little bit younger than typical. I was already had a master's degree, was working in a field for 10 years, and had been doing resumes on the side for a couple of years as well. And so, I started and I built it up slowly. But I would say that you want to be someone who has some work experience. You can't really give people advice on, should I open my own business? Should I get this kind of job? What should I do with my boss acting this way if you've never actually had a job? So I think that's important. Thank you. How soon do I see people making a full parnasa? So I would say for myself, the first year I probably made like $30,000, which was like nights and weekends. By the second year, I would say that doubled. And then it went up every year from there, besides for years. Like when I was giving this course that I dialed back and took on a lot less clients because I was putting more time into building a program, or I've been making more like online programs. But if someone's aim is to get to $100,000, basically divide it up. You need 100 clients to pay you $1,000 each, right? It's pretty simple math. You're charging only $500, so you need 200 clients, right? So that's how many sessions a month. It's very doable. What other questions? Do your career coaches offer the option to just see if my job is right, like validating? So that usually should be done in a 15-minute, if I'm understanding your question, like I do a free career Q&A or a discovery call. that's probably might be a good start. And then you'll see if you need more help. But if your job is a good fit, like it could be very complicated, like, oh no, like we're not sure why not, let's do some testing. Or it might be like, well, I'm this personality type and I'm in this kind of job. We'll be like, well, yeah, you should be in that kind of job. Like it might be very obvious. Okay, someone else asked, what's the difference between an INFJ and an ISFJ? So the N and the S is basically the INFJ is much more intuitive, much more futuristic potential, and the S is more down to earth, practical. E and FP, but you don't find your creativity in any specific thing. Okay, yeah, that's a longer conversation, but that's a good topic. Okay, Q&A. I see we have a bunch more. No, I think we got to all of them. Okay, let me see if I can find Harvey Goldberger. How do I see the people? I guess if you're here, if you could raise your hand, let's see if that works. Oh, okay, you're raising your hand. It's calling you by a different name. That's what's going on. Oh, okay. I was a Rockport client over 30 years ago. It was the best thing I ever did. Wow, that's so cool. Thank you for being here. It served me invaluably throughout my career. Can't say enough good things about the methodology. Discovered innate abilities I didn't know I had. That is amazing to hear. I had the same experience. For me, I was like really, really miserable. I was switching jobs for a decade, every 2 years. I had 5 different careers basically. And then I finally did this and it really helped me figure myself out. And I was like really ready to give up and just think that was stupid. And then I learned so much from this. Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, perfect. Thank you for being here. So yeah, if you
Pleasure.
could just share with the people who are here,
This is
a
audio.
little bit.
This is audio only.
You should be able to turn on video. I'm not seeing you though.
We got a video.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. That worked.
I joined as a panelist. That's what happened.
Ah, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for
So I
having
don't
me.
know. Sure, thank you. I don't know if you were here when I showed your profile in the coach directory, but I
I
gave
did see
everyone a little
that.
peek.
Yeah. I did see that. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
So what would you like me to share?
I guess I would love if you could share with people what you found in the course, and coming from your background, I would love if you just share even, what you were doing before this, and if it gave you anything else that you were able to add to the people who you're already working with.
Okay. So I am living in Minnesota. I've been living here for about 15 years. I run the Colo here. So I run the business side of the Colo, run the programming side of the Colo. And one of the things that we do in the Colo, we bring in we bring in guys, a lot of them from Lakewood, and they come here, they stay here for several years, and then they need to find a job. They need to go out into the working world. And I found that, whether they're going into work, or they're going into, chinuch jobs, teaching jobs, a lot of guys are just clueless. They're leaving Colo and they have no idea what they want to do. They don't even know themselves. They maybe know themselves in the base medrash. They don't know themselves out of the base medrash. So one of the things that I've done throughout my job, throughout my career, is help these guys figure out, what their strengths are, what they're good at, and what they should be doing. I've always been fascinated by people. So, and over the years, I've built up a network among the different colos all around the country. So when I finally saw actually on LinkedIn about this class last year, it was like, wow, this is obvious. I need to do this. Like I need to get, professionally trained, get certification, learn something so that I can go and take this. And I knew exactly what my niche was. Like all these colo guys, not just in my colo, but colo around the country. There's so many guys that are in the colo, in colo somewhere, that are leaving colo, need to find a job, and really don't know where to start. So I immediately signed up. Really, really glad that I did. The course was excellent. I learned a lot of things. I knew a lot about people going in. I knew a lot about the people that I was going to be talking to. I knew them. One of the things that I found, though, is that the testing really helped me crystallize those conversations with people. It gave me terms for some of the things that I intuitively knew, but couldn't express it as crystallized as I can now. And it gives me a real framework to be able to have these conversations with people. So took the course, finished it, did the test clients, and now I started just word of mouth through different colos around, Guys coming to me and exactly in the position that I'm looking for. Guys that are either currently in coal about to leave, or guys that have left a year, two, three ago, and are floundering trying to find a job. To me, it's life saving. It's life saving to people. I mean, I take on clients and they're floundering. Their self-esteem is low. They know they have to find a job. They don't believe in themselves. They have no idea what they're looking for. And by the time we're done talking, they know exactly what they're looking for. They have the confidence to be able to go talk to a recruiter, to go talk to people, network, but knowing what you're looking for. You know, it's one thing to network looking for a job. I like to say it's a lot of people look for jobs like they're looking for a dentist. You have to have one, but good luck finding one with any sort of enthusiasm. When people know what they're looking for, when people can be shown that they have something unique to offer the world, that the world needs from them, and they can get paid to do it, it's literally life-giving to people. They walk out of the session confident. They walk out of the session with enthusiasm. Now, I hire people. When people come to me, if somebody comes into my office and they're enthusiastic about the possibility of working versus somebody walking in, with this cloud of like depression and low self-esteem over themselves and desperation, knowing they have to get a job, I'm going to hire the guy who's confident. I'm going to hire the person. So besides for the fact that I'm giving these people direction, I'm giving them life. There's people that just they need life. Some people are stuck and struggling in the job market. So again, that's been my niche. That's been my experience. I'm happy to field any questions, Mrs. Karen. If you have anything more that you wanted me to speak to specifically, I'm happy to do that.
Wow. I mean, I have that feeling like life saving. Like when I finish working with someone, like I could just see how they're such a different person. They stand straighter, they're more confident, they like believe in themselves because it's very different having an outside person tell you or validate suspicions that you had about your abilities, but you maybe didn't have the confidence to believe in. But like I have no reason to say something that isn't true. I'm just an outside stranger, right? You didn't pay me to make you feel good. You paid me to tell you the truth because you're gonna come back and tell me if it worked or not. And so we really have to be honest as career coaches. But I mean, hearing you use that term just kind of like resonates a lot with the feeling that I have. We got a question for you. And if anyone else has questions for Harvey Goldberger, feel free to type them in anonymously or publicly. Someone here asked, I'd like to hear about how confident he felt in his preparation to go out on his own and advise others effectively.
So I felt very confident. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of that confidence was not just based on the class. I mean, I had been doing this for a while, not professionally, not without the training. So again, I wasn't coming, and I think Mrs. Karen spoke to this before. The people that she was looking for to take this class were people that were already in positions to advise people. So I definitely had confidence in my ability to understand people, to guide people. What the class helped me do is come up with a method for that, a very specific method, come up with testing that I can use as a platform to have those conversations. There are definitely some nuances that I picked up that are very, very helpful, like the tribal maestro one is extremely helpful. That one I did not know beforehand, but it really was crystallizing. So I walked out of the class feeling I was ready, like feeling I was ready. It's funny, a lot of the terms when I remember when I first came in, I know you probably heard tonight all these different terms and ENFPs and ISTJs and all these things, and it could be overwhelming. Like, if you're not familiar with them, and to me, I wasn't familiar with the terms all that much when I first came in. I might have heard of Myers-Briggs, but I wasn't so familiar. And I was a little apprehensive at the beginning of the class. Was I going to be able to get a grasp on all of the terminology that's being used? But once I put it into my own framework, I got it. And I did feel confident going out to be able to do that. But again, it wasn't just the class. I mean, I did come in understanding people, being in a position to help. So I think the two things together really, really helped.
Thank you. We got another two questions for you. Wait, scrolling away from them. Are you able to, okay, and anyone who's interested in Rabbi Goldberger's services, I highly recommend. I've seen his clients and heard, got to see summaries of his work, and highly recommend anyone who falls into this category, and really anyone in general, and his information's on the website. Here's the question. Do you also work with the guys on what they are passionate about? So I'm not sure if that means staying in that framework, or I don't know what that question means.
So we definitely listen to it, and it's important. I mean, obviously, I tell everybody, we have to earn a living. I mean, you got to make enough money to support your family. We talk about the person's, circumstance, and everything goes into it. I'm not one of these people that'll sit there and say, follow your passion blindly. Most of the guys that I'm dealing with are already probably in their mid 30s. They're not 20-year-olds that can afford to spend, 10 years following their passions until they find something. That said, if a guy has a particular passion, we'll definitely encourage it. One thing that I try to do, and this is actually an important thing, I'm not looking for a specific job description for people. I'm not looking for a specific job title. I'm looking for a certain set of circumstances and work environments that'll work. So, for example, I'll have a client and I'll come out with him. You do really well working one-on-one with people, helping them solve delicate issues. Okay. Through that they require a high analytical ability and empathy one-on-one. That's your superpower. That's your strength, right? And they know that about themselves. Okay. Then we'll go through and say, okay, now where in the work world can you find that? And there could be a really wide variety of options. Anything from working in HR for a company to working for a nonprofit organization, a chesed organization, to working for a funeral parlor. I don't know, but there's so many opportunities within the world of business where whether it's in chinuch or not chinuch, where people can use that skill set. So what I like to come out with people is here's a description of what your ideal work setting looks like, right? Then we'll go through a bunch of examples of what that is, and then they'll take that and run from there. That's kind of what I like to do with people.
Yeah, I think I do a lot of the same, especially with mid-career people. When people are younger, they do need more specific job titles, but I do think at that age and stage. Okay, you have two more questions. As a career coach, do you have enough knowledge about various careers to provide detailed and informed advice? For example, if you were to recommend a career in real estate management, have you personally explored and learned about that field in depth? Thank you for this question, because I think that's a lot of people's
Yes,
concern.
good
Yeah.
question. Okay, so the answer is this. I personally, in my job, being on the cusp of, the chinuch world and also the business world, running it, being a Rosh Kollel in my position is running a non-for-profit business. It is running a business. It is CEO of a company. So I know what balance sheets are and P&Ls and things like that. So I do understand business. I do understand it. So I do have a rudimentary understanding of both sides. It's not, I wouldn't recommend somebody who, was just a Rebbe, let's say, become a career coach. I think there would be somewhat of a gap there. That said, I don't have an intimate knowledge in every single field that's out there. Luckily, I do have two things that I can offer, which I'm in the middle of building. Number one, the network of Rockport career consultants. I've reached out to many of them. If there's a particular career that I want to know more about, I'll reach out to them and they'll fill me in. And the other thing is I've built up myself through my own network a list of actually went around to different colos and asked guys, what are some jobs that people from your colo have gone through. I built up a list and I'm in the middle of putting together. I've already gotten several guys in the field that have already gone out there and done the work. Guys who were in the same scenario now are out there. One guy's selling mortgages, one guy's an attorney in a particular position, whatever it is. And I ask them if I can refer guys to them if they're interested in the industry. Then I'll say, if you're interested in this type of industry, why don't you call so and so? He can tell you more specifically about it. It's really I don't believe that there's like one job that people can have and that's it, and that's their perfect dream job, etc. There are many things that most people can do well. It's more about finding things that aren't going to work for you and finding things that do fit most of your ideal things. The difference is like this. People are still going to need recruiters. They're still going to need a network. They're still going to need to find jobs. But the difference between somebody going out into the working world, I'll tell you what, a typical guy, in my experience, he comes out, so I'll go to a recruiter. And the recruiter will say, okay, what's your work history? And he'll say, well, one summer I worked as a counselor in this camp and whatever. And then I also volunteered, in the summer and I worked at a farm store or whatever. So that doesn't help the recruiter at all as far as finding a job. And then somebody will tell them to go take one of these online tests, and they'll take an online test and they'll come back and the results will be, okay, you should become a nurse or go into HR, which again is not very helpful for a guy coming out of college. So what I can provide for them is direction of what type of environment they should be looking for, what that job looks like, what the possibilities are. And then I tell everybody, as you look for jobs, call me. If you have a job that is working. I had today, one of my clients called me up. He started a job. He liked the job itself. He had a particular issue with his boss. We were able to talk it through. I told him, I don't think the issue is something that's going to last. I think you'll be fine with it. I think you should stay with the job, and I think it's a good job for you. But so to answer your question specifically, Do I have intimate knowledge in all the careers? No, I do have intimate knowledge in people. I understand what environments will work for them, what environments won't work for them. Specifics of the job, I have a rudimentary knowledge of it. As far as more specifics, I can refer them to people. I can find them more information, and they can do the work themselves. I'm not promising to find them a job. I'm promising to help them look for the right job as opposed to look for a job. And that's really the key to me.
Yeah, such a fantastic answer. I find the same thing. My biggest concern was that I needed to know everything about every job. And what I actually did the first like few months that I was after I got certified, I went to the library and I took out like the Department of Labor has these like encyclopedias about jobs. And I thought I would just have to study them and memorize them. And in fact, I didn't need to. And I do that exact same thing where any client who comes for something, I'll put them in touch with, at least 3 people often in an industry. And, people I know, people who I've developed a relationship with through my LinkedIn network, through my professional network. And people love getting calls about their careers and giving advice. I mean, there's nothing people like more. And it's so surprising to people who are looking into career. They're like, really? Like this professional is just going to pick up the phone? And yes, they usually will. Their kids aren't asking them about their job. Like nobody else cares. Like they're really, really happy to give advice. And of course, part of the training, we talk about the right questions to ask and, not should I go into this, but in general, you really need to be a people expert, not a career expert, because once a person knows what they want, even the job expert, it's not like you need to help them find a job, because I don't usually see people have that problem. Once you know what you want, that's the easy part. The knowing what you want is the biggest challenge.
I just want to point out, and you saw
Yeah.
NZ Daniel Jr. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but what you were just saying about were people experts, not job experts, is the answer to NZ Daniel's question too. He asked how
Ah,
artificial intelligence impact career selection with possible reduction of job availability. There's no question the job market's going to change. The human market won't. So we're not experts in jobs. We're experts in human beings. Human beings will always be needed. Human beings will always need other human beings. The world will always need human beings to be themselves and be awesome. So the specific jobs that might exist out there, there used to be a job called a blacksmith. Nobody's a blacksmith today. But the people that would have been good at being a blacksmith back then might be plumbers today, or they might be doing programming. So yes, the specific jobs are going to change, but human beings don't fundamentally change. And if you're coming from an aspect of I'm an expert in understanding human beings, I don't think that's ever going to go out of style.
so true. I mean, that's the one thing. Any articles that you read about, AI or any professionals, that's the one thing that humans can never be replaced with, is that empathy, is that understanding, is that human relationship of really validating and being there for a person. Although AI does a fantastic job at lots of other things that make the rest of our jobs much easier. I use it for research. I use it with clients. I use it for helping clients with resumes. It's a really good tool for career coaches. There's some specific questions that I would love for people to follow up with you. Like someone had a specific question about a suggestion for someone leaving Colal with an online MBA who's interested in finance. The
I want to put my
question about
information on there. People can reach out to me.
perfect. Yeah, about what's the difference of veterans from Colal guys when they hit the workforce. So
Well,
these
that's
are
a
very
great, that's,
specific.
he's more right than he thinks, but yeah,
Oh,
whoever that is,
really?
he or
Okay.
she. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's anonymous. I can't see who it is. Okay, so please, I encourage you to follow up with Robbie Goldberger. You'll enjoy a conversation with
Where
him.
can I put my information here?
Yeah, I think you could type it into the chat, and Judy just put in the Find a Coach page
I'll
where
find a
people can,
coach. Yeah.
yeah. So anyone could look you up there, and your email, your website, your profile is there. And so, and I think you're the only one who comes up if people type in Minnesota. So that should
That
make
is.
the search easy.
Yeah. By the
Thank
way, I
you.
do on Zoom, so if it's you
You
don't
don't
have to
have to
come out to
travel out
Minnesota,
there.
right?
We're all looking forward to a ski trip and cool.
Yeah.
Do you actually see people in person or never?
I mean, my own Cola guys, I do, but
Yeah, okay. People
not.
who are
I
local.
haven't had a Rockport client in person. Oh no, that's not true. One of my test clients was in person.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah,
okay. So either one, if you want to travel out, that's your excuse to go to Minnesota. Good. I see that Judy just put in your
thank you.
the phone number that you could be reached
Okay.
at and the email address. So please follow up. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being
Pleasure.
here. It was an honor having you in the class. And I part of one of my favorite things was just like the meeting other really smart, talented, driven people. And I think that the network that we have, you're getting a small taste of it. I wish we had other coaches who were available. But I think that's a really big part of the benefits as well.
Yes. Okay. I
Thank you so
encourage
much.
everybody
Thank
to
you
do
for
it.
joining.
Sign up.
Thank you.
I wasn't paid for this, by the way. So.
No, but we do have a $500 coupon for anyone who signs up by the end of the day, December 5th. And you'll get that in an email if you are here. So if you want to do it, please follow up with myself, or if you want to be put in touch with our Big Goldberger or any other coach to hear about what the experience was like so you can make your own decision. If anyone has any other questions about the training or about career coaching in general, you can type that in on here and feel free to type that in. We're just seeing, okay, I see a few more Q&As here. Okay, here's a great question. Okay, I'm not sure if I need to move you or there's anything I need to do, Robert Goldberger, but
Oh,
yeah, you're
I
welcome
can
to
just
stay and
leave.
answer questions though, so.
I can answer, if you want me to stay and answer questions, I'm happy to do that.
Well, let's see
I'll
what kind of questions
I'll
come in.
stay
Let's go.
quiet. I'll stay quiet. If you want me to take one, I'll take it. How
Oh,
about
thank you. Okay, here's a wonderful question. If I'm a maestro personality, is it possible to even find a job that would ever fit for me, or I need to be an entrepreneur? Okay, well, okay, I think I'm gonna let you take this. As an ISFP, I feel like my creativity is very underappreciated and there are no jobs geared for my strengths. What I realize is that creative people must open their own business to use their strengths, and they're not looking to hire additional creative minds. Is this your experience? Are there types like me, or is there really a shortage of a job? The clerical, organized, efficient personalities have an overabundance and always do well in the workforce. I'm so bad at that. Is there any hope for me? Is my own business the only viable route? I left my job and I'm looking for a job for a year and I've given up hope on the job market for my personality. I would love to hear what you say before I answer that.
which one? There's a lot of them here.
This one, did you see the one that says if I, that start, this one that I just read? This is all one person's question. If I'm a maestro personality.
Okay, maestros. Okay, so a maestro can very well work for somebody else. They don't need to be an entrepreneur. They just need to be masters of the craft, not masters of people. Essentially, the difference between a maestro and a tribal is tribals live in the world of people. Maestros live in the world of the craft that they have. So a maestro would be amazing as an expert in any industry. So they know the material better than anybody else, and they would be great in that industry. Their experience has to be in the subject that they're talking to. So that's something that I would say for a maestro. The one thing to avoid is, let me just give you an example that I came up with in maestro and tribal in the world of teaching, which is what I was dealing with. This is a big mistake people make. An extroverted maestro is somebody, let's say, a great camp counselor. He's a big speaker. He goes out there, he performs. He can attract a crowd. He's good energy. It's great vibes. The problem is he doesn't necessarily understand individuals. So you put him in a classroom of 7th or 8th graders, or even 10th graders and 11th graders, where the job is to understand individuals. He doesn't really understand the individuals. He may be an expert at the subject material. He may be great at understanding math or science or Gemara or whatever the subject is that he's teaching, but he doesn't innately understand the difference in the individuals there. What that will look like is he'll say things like, discipline doesn't work for me. Now, a tribal person won't say discipline doesn't work for me. He'll say Shmuley is giving me a hard time. In other words, it's not discipline which is the problem, right? In other words, the maestro person is like, if only I can just teach and not have to worry about the kids listening, then it'd be great, right? So let me give you a perfect example of this. There was somebody who I know who was a principal in a school, very high power person. He came right after a very, very tribal person, and it was a disaster because the person before him was very tribal, and it was the job of principal in the school required him to understand the teachers, to understand the parents, to understand innately the people that were there. And it was a disaster. Then he left that job, and he went on to become a professional consultant. And he was excellent at it because he's really an exceptional person. He's very, very good at what he does, which is he's good at the subject matter of education and teaching. He wasn't good at the people side of things. That's where a tribal and a maestro. So you can definitely work in an industry. You can work in any company, really, as long as your job is not primarily people. Your job is primarily the subject as an expert in the thing that you're doing.
I would answer exactly the same. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you for that question. And I think that it's possible to find a job like that where you're a specialist. The hardest thing is really recognizing and appreciate. I'm curious though, whoever wrote this question knows that they're a maestro. So did you do testing? Did you just read the Pathfinder? How much do you know about it that you came up with that assumption? And I appreciate that they like that you feel that self-employment would be easier, but not necessarily are you entrepreneurial just because you're a maestro, right? So, okay, another question here. Would an INFP be good at self-employment? So here's the thing. People always want to know, like, if I tell you my personality, could you tell me if I would make a good entrepreneur? And there's no, I asked that question to multiple mentors of mine when I was just starting out, and I really wanted a neat, easy, way to do it. And I've been spoken to recruiters who I consulted for, and they said, well, okay, if you could just give us like a list of the personality types that would be good at jobs and would be good at business. And I wish it was so simple, but people are way more complex than that. So what we know about an INFP is that you need to do work with, not a lot of people. You need to do work where you're using your empathy, your intuition, your understanding of people. You need to do something that's making a difference, and you need to do something in a flexible environment. So that could be, EFT facilitator for in your own practice, or that could be being a math tutor in a school. Right? Like you could have your own business or not. It really has very little to do with your personality type, much more to do with if you're interested in doing sales and spending a lot of your time on running a business until you could afford to hire someone else to do that. If you like setting up systems, if you have the patience to build something slowly, resilience, what else would you add to that, Rabbi Goldberger?
ISFP.
No, the INFP, who's asking if
Oh,
they would be good at self-employment.
oh. It all depends. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's one type for self-employment like you're saying. I do think a person is self-employed. The challenge of being self-employed is like this. Everybody has deficiencies. When you work with other people, so then naturally there'll be around you other people to pick up on those deficiencies. When you're self-employed, you don't necessarily have that ability, or it's harder. You have to create that opportunity. So what I think more than anything else, a person who's self-employed needs to be aware of their strengths, be aware of their weaknesses, and have a contingency plan for those weaknesses. I think that's the thing that's needed for self-employment. Whereas when you're employed by somebody else, you focus on your strengths, and somebody else worries about the weaknesses that you don't do and hires somebody else to do those things. To me, that's if there was one thing that made the difference between being, functionally self-employed versus somebody who works for somebody else, it's being able to have a contingency plan for your own weaknesses.
Yeah, I like that. Like for me, it's like having an assistant because I know I probably won't open and read the emails as much as I would like to, and I should. I just won't. And so I know that I have someone who can do that for me. I know that I can get it done. Okay, so one last question. I'm an ENFP. We touched on this before, but I didn't get to answer it. So let's see if this is something that we have the time for. But I don't find my creativity in any specific thing. So how do I discover my natural, where is my natural creativity applied to? So an ENFP really does need to do something that they care about. And a good coach will help you figure that out. I would probably ask you questions like in the jobs that you've had, what was your favorite part of it, even if it had nothing to do with the job? I would ask you in your personal life, what are things that you do for fun? I would ask you if you had all the money in the world, how would you spend your time? And it doesn't need to be something that's like a classic creative thing like decorating or design. It might be like solving math equations or, doing something that interests you. And what people think when I start asking these questions is like, oh, well, that has nothing to do with career. And you are what's important. So there's nothing about you that has nothing to do with your career. And just because there's something that you haven't yet applied, most of your interests and skills could be used in your career if you wanted to. And so I ask those questions not because you're going to do those things, but we can pull out of the job like, oh, your job was to, be the accountant, but you actually enjoyed speaking to the customers, right? So like, let's learn what that's a clue about you. And we really want to go into really figuring out what you're interested in doing, even if you think it has nothing to do with your career. And then a good coach will be able to help you bring that skill and transfer it into something that makes sense as a legitimate career. Okay, and then I see more questions coming in. Not being
I'd
good
say at
with
one point,
people. Yeah,
one thing that I've learned is that the word creativity means something different to so many different people. I think people mean different things with it. Some people think creativity means being different from other people. Some people think creativity means the ability to be diagnostic, to solve things. I would drill down and find out, what do you mean by creativity? Because I really find that different people use the word very differently. Everybody holds it in high esteem. Everybody needs their creativity to be expressed. But I think it means different things to different people.
Yeah, yeah, and I see your answer is resonating here with the person who asked the Meister question. Yeah, the people aspect gets in the way. So yes, I think this is a good question to speak to a coach for, but to figure out what your creativity is, and it certainly can be done without people. Okay, someone wrote here, thank you. Last work was completing PhD and postdoc in a laboratory setting and finally hated it. Yeah, okay, so now you can figure out what it is that you like doing. In your case, it's big ideas, very artsy. Yeah, get on the phone with the coach. We have so many coaches and they all do free 15-minute consult, or maybe longer. I do that, so feel free to go. I'm not listed there, but my website is shanakaren.com. There's a link there to schedule a call and reach out to any of the coaches. This sounds like a really doable answer, and you should be able to be happy, and you should be able to find a job once you clarify how your unique combination of skills work, and how, like, what kind of career that would fit into. Okay, I see that we wrapped up all the questions. Thank you everyone who stayed on this long. It's been 2 hours. Wow. So I guess if you're here, you love the topic as much as I do. Thank you for your time on a Sunday evening. I think it's a fun way to spend the night. Thank you so much, Judy, for dropping in I see you dropped in the website. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Yaakov. A couple of people whose names I could see. And if you have any questions, follow up. My email is coach@shanakaren.com. You can go on my website. You can go on the Rockport. If you're interested in career coaching and you want to make sure that you will get in with that $500 coupon, do immediately complete the application online so that we'll know that you are in and applied, and somebody will reach out to you before that deadline. Let's see, a couple more comments came in. No, okay, just thank yous, no questions. Amazing. Okay, thank you everyone, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good night.